You're listening to a podcast of Master Your Finances with me, Kurt Baker, a certified financial planner professional. Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on 1077thebronx.com. Good morning and welcome back to another edition of Master Your Finances, presented by Certified Wealth Management and Investment. I am Kurt Baker, a certified financial planner professional located in Princeton, New Jersey. I can be reached through our website, which is www.cwmi.us. Or you can call me directly at 609-716-4700. This week, I'm very pleased to have with us BJ Thomas of ClearCaptions, and it is ClearCaptions is an FCC certified telephone captioning provider, and their goal is educating the public on this federally funded program for people that deal with hearing loss. It's a Title IV ADA specialist program, and he focuses on providing educational seminars in communities, clubs, senior centers, veterans organizations, and any outlet willing to share this valuable information. And once people learn how to qualify and are interested in bridging the gap of communication on their phone, he visits their home and hooks up the caption phone to show them how to use it, and it's all at no cost. And it was kind of cool because I met you kind of at a senior center place, and we got to talking, and I never really kind of understood this program. I know people that have like the phones. I know when you dial in, they say punch this button if you need, if you have your system on the other end. I forget what they say. If you need hearing assistance or whatever it is. So that's about all I'd ever heard. Like, oh, that's cool. Because I assumed that if I had a hearing loss, I would go out and I'd buy some little machine that would help me with this, right? And I would set it on my phone and hook it up somehow. I mean, I just kind of made some assumptions, and we got to talking. And you're saying, hey, look, no, if people actually have hearing loss, I guess this is considered a basic need,
correct?
Which it is, of course. I mean, phones are everywhere. We have to communicate, and there's actually a program to help out. It sounds like this program has been around for a while.
Yeah, it has been. The program has actually been around for years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a government administered program through the FCC, as you mentioned, and it actually began almost 30 years ago. And the program was built under the Telecommunications Relay Service Fund. And what that did was required all telecommunications companies to pay a fraction of the fees of every bill that we pay that goes into this fund.
Oh, so it's one of those little line items. I can never figure out what the codes mean.
That's exactly what it is. I had no idea what it meant till I began working here. So it's usually called FCC user service charge. Every carrier calls it something different.
Of course.
It's pennies. It's usually like 50 cents to
Right.
$1.50 a month that's taken out.
Right.
But keep in mind, it's taken out of everyone's bill in the country.
That's a lot of pennies.
Yes, it is. So cell phone bills, landline bills, no matter who you have, you're
Right.
paying into it.
Okay.
So now for when people have hearing loss, and there's no age requirements.
Right.
I do mostly deal with a lot of seniors in the population, senior
People in rock
population.
bands, right?
Yep. Oh, I always, when I do my seminars, I have hearing loss just from going to rock concerts.
Yeah.
So hearing loss is caused by so many different issues, just not age. It's
True.
environment, where you've worked. Where
I used to work in an engine room on a ship, so those turbines humming.
Yep.
You do that for 30 years, you're going to have hearing loss for sure.
And I've worked with a lot of people like yourself for that very reason. But the great thing is I've actually hooked up someone that was 14 years old that needed the phone because she was born with a genetic issue that caused her hearing loss. I've also hooked up someone that was 103 years old.
Wow.
So anywhere in between. And it's a great program. As you mentioned, most people that I talk to don't know about it.
Right.
Or maybe they've heard about it or they've seen it, but they don't know how it works. So that's why it's so important with ClearCaptions that we go out and provide education. And we make sure we go out to make sure people understand why it's free. And I always joke around, the hardest part of my job is that it's free.
Right.
And the reason being is anytime you hear that four-letter F word, free, you think, what's the gimmick? What's the catch? I'm going to get a bill.
I'm signing something with it with a lien somewhere.
Yes, exactly. And in the world we live in of robocalls and trying to get scammed,
Yep.
That's why we go out to do these seminars, to explain how the program works, why it's free, and how to qualify. And again, the qualifications are simple. It's having hearing loss, having internet access, and then having a phone line. And that's the only three qualifications in order to be qualified and receive it. Now, a lot of times, probably the other hardest part of my job is internet access, especially in the senior population. There is big part of the population that does not have internet access, or
Right.
they believe they don't, but they do.
Yeah, with
And
voice over internet protocol phones, a lot of people have internet access, may not realize it because their phone needs the internet to work, right?
that is correct.
Right.
And the other part of it too is we all get sold into the triple play or the bundle or the
Oh, right.
package because it's going to lower your bill. So I've worked with so many seniors, primarily in their 80s and 90s, that they have internet, but they've just never used it. So another part of my job is helping them how to identify if they have internet. So this way, because I've had so many people walk away from me saying, I need this, but I can't have it because I don't have internet. What I'll do is I'll go out to their home. I'll take a look how they're set up to see if they have internet. And if they do, then I'm able to help them out with one of these phones.
Right.
And it really can help change someone's life.
Yeah, that's amazing. So can you give us a little of the background of like how all this, because obviously before that, there must have been issues, right?
Well, yeah. So
Before this program was out there, I'm sure there was a need that developed.
Yep.
And all of a sudden somebody said, hey, we've got to do something about this. So can you give us a little of the backdrop on
Yes.
how all this occurred?
So there has always been technology out there for people that have hearing loss. And there's a difference between people who have hearing loss and people that were deaf. And there's always been TTY program where there was the operator in between and sending messages back and forth. But then there was a need for people that had hearing, but they lost it. You know, and so that's where this technology started to develop probably 15 years ago.
Okay.
And as it continued to grow and like everything else, the technology continued to get better and better and better. We were able to come out and speak to the masses in the country about it. It's one of the biggest things that especially the senior population are going through is hearing loss.
Sure.
And unfortunately, it's one of our senses that we have that we don't want to talk about or admit to.
Right.
The denial level of hearing loss is epic. And I'm going to be honest, it's mostly men. They don't want to admit to their hearing loss.
Men would never admit.
No, exactly. You know, and it's always, oh, no, it's just selective hearing, you know, and it's
Right.
And
Well, there's that too.
yes. And that's, unfortunately, I don't think there is anything to fix that. We're just born that way.
Not with this, though.
Not at all. And it's funny, I'll have so many wives come up to me and ask me, listen, my husband is here, but he won't speak with you. But I'm begging you to come to my home and hook up this phone because he's driving me crazy.
Right.
And it's funny but true. I've worked with so many couples in their 80s and 90s. They've been married 60, 70, almost 80 years.
Wow.
And they're at each other's throats because the other person can't hear and does not want to talk on the phone anymore.
Right.
So they'll keep handing off the phone to them. And I always talk about this couple in Brick, New Jersey I hooked up. She was 97 and he was 95. And she begged me to come to the home and meet her husband, which I did. I hooked up the phone. He was actually able to hear better because it's much louder and clearer than a normal home phone.
Okay.
And he was actually able to have a conversation in which he wasn't able to do in years.
Right.
And as I was leaving, the wife came up to me and just shook my hand and said, "Thank you so much." She goes, "You just saved my marriage."
Oh my gosh.
And they were married 75 years, but
Wow.
the frustration level is at such a peak that they needed this. So there's so many different reasons, not only for frustration purposes, but for safety. There's so many people that don't want to make a phone call or answer a call that may be important because they're so embarrassed of saying what, or can you repeat that, or I can't hear you, or can you please slow down? They just don't want to say it.
Right.
And in the land or in the environment of robocalls that we live in, and especially they're targeting the senior population, is I've spoken to many of people that have received these robocalls and actually have gotten scammed because they couldn't hear what was being said to them.
Oh my goodness.
So they were saying yes or no to things that they had no idea what they were saying yes or no to.
Right.
And there's also a lot of health reasons. A lot of people, unfortunately, are on their own in their 80s and 90s. They're living on their own. Their family is scattered throughout the country. So they become very isolated. They become very alone, and they don't go out and socialize anymore. And there's been so many reports and scientific evidence that hearing loss, if you're not continuing to work on it, will lead to dementia, will lead to other health issues. So, and a lot of it's just about socialization, of keeping your brain active. And
Right.
when you're stuck in your home and you don't want to leave because you're afraid to talk to somebody, it's really it becomes a health concern. So there's a lot of different factors as to why having a caption phone for someone that has hearing loss can help in a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think this is an amazing thing, amazing technology, and I think when we come back, I want to get into like the details of like how this works and how
Sure.
how it all works out and so forth. So you've been listening to Master Your Finances, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Master Your Finances. I'm Kurt Baker here with BJ Thomas of ClearCaptions, and we've been talking something I found is very interesting. Is that I guess through this. One of the funds, those little lines on your phone bill, so to speak, is a fund which out of that is to help people, I guess, communicate.
Correct.
I'm assuming is what the purpose of the fund is. And Clear Captions, this technology came about.
Yes.
And that's how it's getting funded through this, right? It wasn't necessarily that they went out and got the fund. The fund was there.
Correct.
And this was just a better technology to help people to communicate on
Correct.
the phone. And the whole intent of that was, of course, people kind of forget, but years ago, like the whole phone system was regulated, right? It was
Yes.
it was basically a government phone system, kind of like the postal system, but it deregulated. But you still had this piece in there that's really trying to help those who really can't have trouble communicating on a traditional phone, right?
That is correct.
And so, but so there's no means test to this, right? So
No.
anybody could get this, even like a Michael Bloomberg could like fill out an application.
Yes, he can.
Not that he'd spend the time to do it, but I mean, so nobody has to be worried about whether you're wealthy or not wealthy or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to guess that you've got like you talked about siblings and maybe if the kids say, hey, like I'm calling up dad, and all of a sudden he doesn't seem to be able to hear me that well.
Yep.
Maybe we need to like look into something like this. There's already a fund for it, and then you have to. I guess they get a test, right? I'm assuming. Because I know like with little scooters, if you can't walk so many feet, then you get a scooter, right? The Medicare type deal, Medicaid type thing, right? So can you walk me through kind of what that requirement would be? How much loss do I have to have, or how do they figure this out?
Sure, there's no certain level of loss that needs to be given. Having a hearing test is always good, so you know exactly what sort of hearing loss you have, because there's different types of hearing loss. And they can go anywhere now to get a hearing test, whether it be an audiologist, at the VA for veterans. Costco now has, hearing aids where they give tests there. So,
so if they sell a hearing aid, they're going to do a test, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So most people that have hearing aids, they've had tests. Some people that don't have hearing aids can still get a test done, but it's not requiring them to have to buy hearing aids.
Yeah. So you hear the thing like where if you're sitting in the room watching television with your significant other, and all of a sudden you find that you're tweaking it up a little, and they're tweaking it down a little, and you're like, wait a minute, I can't,
It's the battle,
right? If you start getting into one of these battles, maybe there's an issue there.
Yep.
Have a conversation about, and it sounds to me like the women are the ones that lead the men along to get them out because we don't like to go to doctors in the first place.
No, definitely not.
We don't like to go. Do
no,
that stuff.
We are forced to go to the doctors when we don't want to.
But catching it early, like a lot of things, will help. So, we men out there got to kind of get that in our heads. The earlier you get involved, the more likely to have less hearing loss, right?
Yes.
The more likely to get the help you need. And you can get an object like this to help you actually communicate with other people in your life, your social life.
Correct.
And then, you spoke about that as one of your senses. So that actually affects your cognitive capability and can help keep your brain active so you slow down that process of developing things like dementia and things like that, where they show that the more active you keep your brain, the better. And especially as we get older, we talk about multiple ways of stimulating the brain and keep it going. Go learn how to play the violin if you don't know how to play. Just keep moving around your brain and trying to keep it going. And hearing, if you don't have that, that's a huge issue.
Yes.
So now that we've got this thing, so how do I get it? Right. Now,
so
what's the process? Can you walk me through how we do this?
Sure. So at least in this part of New Jersey, because this is a nationwide program.
Okay.
So I cover southern New Jersey, I cover Monmouth, Ocean, Mercer, and then everything down to Cape May. There's two other counterparts I have in New Jersey, and then there's almost 150 of us throughout the country that do what we do. We're strictly employed by ClearCaptions, and we come out. So not only do I do the seminars, but for people that qualify, I personally come out with a phone and I hook it up and I show them how to use it. Now, when I go out to hook up a phone, it's a normal home phone that we provide. The only difference is there's a screen on it, so when someone is talking to them, the captions, the words are appearing of what the other person is saying. So this way, if they still can't hear, because it does go up to 40 decibels of sound, it's almost double what is regulated by a regular home phone.
So my phone only goes to roughly 20, you're saying?
Correct. And this goes up to 40 because it was built for hearing loss.
Gotcha.
So probably about 85% of the people I hook up can actually hear better on the phone, and they utilize the captions as a backup in case they miss something that's said. There's a small population that I work with that their hearing loss is so severe, I have to train them and their family of how to use the captions.
Okay.
Because the only way they can actually communicate is by reading first. Okay.
Oh, so there's going to be a lag. So I know when you watch television, the captions, like when you have live TV, you're if you can hear, you hear it, and then the caption kind of follows a little bit, right?
Exactly. There's a 2 to 3 second delay, and
It's confusing sometimes when you're doing both.
100. And I always compare it to TV captions because it's similar to that, and there's going to be, and they're 90 to 95% accurate. So you will see misspellings or jumbled words.
Yeah, people's names and other, all kinds of things.
My name, BJ, will come up DJ, PJ, eBay. So
eBay. Hey,
yeah,
that's not so bad.
Yeah, now, I wish I owned it. I wish I owned BJ's Wholesale and eBay. It'd be great.
Sure.
But it's those things that I go out to train on. Because I want them to be very comfortable with using it so they're getting as much out of it as possible. So it's reviewing how to use the captions. It's reviewing how to hear. We talk about using speakerphone a lot. Most people with hearing loss can hear better on speakerphone.
Interesting, really?
Because the sound travels equally to both ears. When you're using the handset, you're only relying on one ear to hear what's coming through. And if someone has a hearing aid and you press the handset up against the hearing aid, it will cause a distortion as the sound is traveling through the hearing aid. So one of the things I do is we do about 2 or 3 sound checks where I'll do a couple of phone calls to them and speak with them on speaker and handset. And then we'll do another call with customer support so they can talk to someone other than me to see how they sound. And we do a couple of tests to gauge what's the best volume level for them and when they're going to possibly have to use those captions and be able to see them. So we want to make sure after I leave, they're comfortable. But even after I leave, if they ever have any questions, I personally go back out and help them out.
Right. So I'm thinking about the caption aspect of it because you're reading the caption, you're talking. Now, what about the person on the other end? Because I'm not seeing any of this.
No, none.
So if I'm the one using the phone, do I see what I'm saying? Or
No.
I only see what I'm hearing.
So
supposed to hear.
If you're using the caption phone, the only words coming up is what the other person is saying.
Okay.
You will not see what you're saying. That would be too confusing.
Right.
And it's only what they're saying. And even after they hang up the phone, that we have a call log. They can go back into the call log and actually read what the other person said to them. So if they're getting some important information, dates and times, directions, whatever it may be, they can actually go back in and say, oh, what did she say to me? And actually read it again after they've already hung up.
So how long does that reside in there?
As long as they don't delete it.
Oh, so it's almost like a voicemail message or something else. It's a recording in there, so I can go back and check it again.
Correct.
Well, I think that's huge. Because you're right, especially when you have this little delay going on. I could easily see how you may miss something or you may,
And what I'm finding, it's also not only important for them, but the family, because the son or daughter will come over and mom or dad will say, oh, I just spoke to so-and-so and they said this. The son or daughter can actually go in and say, oh, they can actually read what was said to their parent.
Right.
So that's actually helping the families out too to make sure they're getting the accurate information.
Oh, that's true, too.
So there's a couple of different ways that can help a family or the person that needs it.
Excellent.
Yep.
So have you seen this helping with like these people? I know we have the scammers that call up on the phone and things like that. Have you seen that helping with their ability to understand when, hey, wait, this person's not legit?
So my number one advice about the scammers, and this is what I always tell people, if you see a phone number you don't recognize, just don't answer.
Yeah, that's like for everybody.
Just for everyone.
That's everyone.
Just don't answer.
Right.
But because the senior population is being targeted by them, this has helped out to the degree of where if they do pick up on a call that they don't recognize, they can actually hear what the person is saying to them. And they're not saying yes or no to things that they don't understand. They actually can hear what the person is saying and can either just respond or hang up on them if they recognize it's some sort of fake call or scam
Right.
call. Again, I've spoken with people that have gotten scammed out of thousands of dollars
Sure.
because they didn't hear what was being said to them.
Right.
And they thought there's a call going around called the grandkid call, where a grandchild is in jail and they're calling so and so to get bailed out, and
Right.
they will target the population, and they'll get the name of the grandchild through the person. And unfortunately, grandma or grandpa will send a couple of $1,000s or more, and then they get scammed. And it happens all the time.
Oh, I know. Unfortunately, it's a serious. I mean, elder financial abuse is a big problem. So
Yes.
I know. I've so much so I've started giving workshops on it because I know it's a big deal. And just back to one point is that I know that even the caller ID can be spoofed too. So
Yes.
even if you recognize the number and you recognize the name, like PSE&G or Utility or AT&T or somebody that you think is legit, always be suspect. So if somebody starts talking to you about some kind of transaction and they initiated the call, I typically get information and then I recheck it separately.
Yep.
So like if AT&T is calling me and I have an AT&T account, I will take their information, then I'll go back.
Great idea.
And then I'll call from the numbers that I know, because actually one case we have an account with TD Bank as an example, and a fraud line called me, and I thought this was really strange, but they left a number that I didn't recognize.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, they legitimately have a separate fraud number because we have on one of our nonprofit cards, somebody had gotten so it got shut down, which is fine, which is great.
Yeah.
But they were saying, "Hey, call back because this transaction we don't recognize." And I'm like, "Wait a second." But anyway, so no matter what it is, you're better off researching it yourself and initiating the call back. If somebody wants money or information from you, very few companies reach out directly and have those conversations.
Correct. And very few companies are going to ask for information such as credit cards and checks or your personal information.
Right. And the government never does. Social Security, none of the government
IRS
because they're required to communicate by
mail.
By mail.
Correct.
And everybody needs to understand that they will never, ever, ever call you. They always have to communicate by mail to document everything that they do.
Yep.
And so always reject those calls. It's never legit.
Always reject them, and they will sometimes they will leave messages.
Correct.
Ignore the messages.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Wow, amazing. Well, this is great information. You're listening to Master Your Finances, and we're going to be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Master Your Finances. I am Kurtis Baker here with BJ Thomas of ClearCaptions, and we're talking about a really good program offered through the ADA Title IV, and it helps people who have hearing loss, and anybody can qualify for this, which is cool. So here's a point where you can feel a little bit better about your phone bill.
Yes.
Because it's going back to help people in a really legitimate way. So a lot of people are apparently, I assume as we're aging as a population, you're seeing more and more need for this, correct? So,
correct.
So
yep. As we go along, and I think I got a statistic that every day in America, 10,000 people turn 65.
Right.
Every day moving forward, and it just continues. And it's the amount of people I really work with are their 80s and 90s and actually early 100s. That's where it seems that most of the hearing loss or people that are in need of this phone is really taking place in that generation and that population. And one of the things I do when I go out to someone's home and they're inviting me into their home and I got to go out and hook up a phone for them, the first thing I like to do is identify the best place I can put the phone where they like to talk. Because this phone is not cordless. So it is stationary because of where the captions come up. It's corded, or they can use the speakerphone. But I want to find the best place where they're comfortable, whether it's in their bedroom or in their living room or in the kitchen, where they can sit down and have a nice, comfortable conversation with somebody. One thing I am restricted to is I can only hook up the phone to where there's an active phone jack.
Okay.
So I need to have an active phone jack, and in the world of cable companies such as Xfinity or Optimum, when they hook up a modem, a lot of the times that is the active phone jack in the house, is where the modem is. The old Verizon phone jacks that we have in the wall sometimes no longer are working because of the cable company coming in.
Because they use the voice over internet protocol now, right? The VoIP phones.
Correct.
So that's really connected to the internet. So you got to have a way to connect into that.
So there is a way I can connect directly into the modem, but then there's also a way I know how to activate the other phone jacks in the house using the modem.
Oh, okay.
So I will do my best to put the phone where it's comfortable for them, and I know they're going to get the best use out of it.
Now, what if I have like a 4-bedroom, 2-floor house? How does all that work where, I'm moving around the house, right? The phone rings if it's downstairs in the kitchen and I'm upstairs in my bedroom. what's going to happen at that point?
Great
How
question.
does that all work?
So what happens is most of us have cordless phones. You know,
Right.
we have the
Okay.
base and then the 3 or 4 extensions throughout
Okay.
the house. Those phones stay exactly the same. I don't replace them. I don't
Okay.
touch them. Your phone number stays the same. So the caption phone I hook up is there for you to use when you need it.
Okay.
So if you're upstairs and you're talking on your cordless phone and you're having a perfectly good conversation because you can hear them okay, use your cordless phone.
Right.
But if you're finding it difficult to having a conversation because you can't hear, then you can go downstairs and use the caption phone. So you don't need to use the caption phone 100% of the time. It's
Gotcha.
only there sort of as a backup for when you need
Okay.
it. And there's some people a lot of the people I work with know, they always tell me, I can't hear my grandkids. I can't hear my grandkids. That's probably the number one thing I
Interesting.
hear.
So why is their voice?
Because they're high-pitched voices.
Okay.
They talk too fast.
Oh, that's true.
Yep, they talk too fast, high-pitched voices. And the other I'll get is the receptionist at the doctor. I can't hear the receptionist at the doctor.
That's
And
fascinating. You would think they'd know better.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny, but what I'm finding in common about the reception at the doctors is that it's the younger generation
Okay.
that talk way too
And they're
fast.
probably in a hurry. They probably have 3 lines blinking at the
Exactly,
same time.
and they want to try to get off to there, and so so it's training them how to slow down.
Right.
So this phone will help because of the volume level, the amplification level. Hopefully, the person will be able to hear that better. So
Okay.
it's why it's so important that we put the phone in a comfortable place. The phone also has a built-in answering machine / voicemail. So if people are having difficulty hearing the messages,
Okay.
we can actually set up a answering machine or attach it to their voicemail so they can actually hear it better, and we'll also caption the messages that are being left for them so they can read.
Okay.
One of the other things similar to our smartphones or cell phones is there's a contact page. So you can program all the names and numbers of people that you call the most. So this way, that's one of the things when I go out is I show them how to do it, but then I'll say, who are the top 5 people you know you call on a weekly basis?
Right.
And I'll put them in for them. So this way they have a start where they can just tap on the name.
Sounds like a Seinfeld episode. Who gets number 1 position?
Yes, it's funny. I do bring that up because there is a favorites, and when they say, "Oh, this is my daughter, this is my son,"
Yeah.
I said, "Are you sure you only want to put one in your favorites?
right,
Because if
that's
they see it, the other one's going to get mad."
Who's number 1?
Yeah.
I don't know. You got to fight over that spot.
It's funny you bring that up because that is the truth that has come up.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So you have the transcription. So this sounds a little bit like I guess the Google voicing, which I don't really use, but I mean this is like a hardware
Voice to text sort of software.
Right,
Yeah.
So this is very specifically designed just for this.
Yeah. So when
So
you
the accuracy, I'm assuming, is probably a little better.
yeah, it's all depending on how it's being said and how fast it's being said.
Right.
If someone has an accent, you know, if they're talking low, high, slowly, whatever it may
Right.
be, there's a lot of different reasons why it may not be accurate. It continues to get a little bit better and a little bit better.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
like captions on television, especially live television is
Right.
where you see it. And
Yeah.
but because this is a live conversation on the phone, you know, it does pretty good. But
Yeah.
again, if someone is talking too fast, no matter what,
Right.
I always advise people just ask them to let
Yeah, I
them
was
know,
gonna say train them to how to talk to me, right?
train them, and don't be
Please
shy.
slow
Let
down.
them know you have hearing loss, and you
Right.
want to make sure you hear them just to slow down a little bit. There's no
Right.
shame in asking that.
Oh no, absolutely
You
not.
know, but again, most people are embarrassed to talk about their hearing loss,
Right.
and it's a shame because a lot of people are missing out on a lot of different things out there because they just don't want to admit to it or say it.
Right.
So one of the things that when I go out to help someone with a phone, it's just not about the phone. It's everything else about
Right.
hearing loss that I want them to understand to help them out just so they can live a little bit of a better life
Right.
and safer life.
Yeah. I know we tend to mirror each other. So if somebody's talking too fast, I know if you actually slow down, in theory, they're
Yes.
supposed to naturally they'll slow down a little bit. So if somebody's talking a little too fast, you can literally just start talking a lot slower, and they're going to automatically at least slow down a little. Maybe not enough, but at least a little bit.
But and I agree with you because that will naturally make the other person think,
Right.
you know, to slow down. And
Right.
it's, especially in the world we live in the Northeast where we live in,
Right.
everything is so fast.
I agree.
We got to get there quick. We got to say it quick. We got to get out quick. And I just think that's sort of the environment that we live in.
And I try to consciously do that when I'm with just anybody in person, and I realize that we're kind of out of sync.
Yes.
I mean, every once in a while that happens where somebody's talking either much faster than you or much slower than you.
Yep.
And I have to remember, wait a minute, that's kind of their pace.
Correct.
So you have to try to, because then they're going to hear, you're actually going to communicate better.
Yeah.
If you pace to each other a little bit better.
And I do that all day long because every person I hook up is different.
Right.
And
sure.
every person I teach on the phone is different. And every educational seminar I do is different.
Right.
So how I approach people almost every time is different than the one I met, an hour before.
Right.
This morning I was working with a woman who was 90 years old.
Wow.
And she was actually almost fearful of the phone. Technology, a lot of
Fearful of the
times,
phone?
yeah,
Okay.
because technology, a lot of times, that older generation scares people, and they're like, oh, I don't have a computer, or I still have a flip phone, I don't want anything else, and the phone is a newer technology, but
Right.
it's user friendly,
Right.
and it's her granddaughter was there helping her. Her granddaughter
Okay.
actually called me and asked me to come in to help her grandmother, which was so sweet.
That's great.
And once I calmed her down a little bit and was able to show her how easy it was to use, and we started doing test calls, and her granddaughter was doing test calls, and she was actually able to hear her.
Right.
As I was teaching the grandmother, the granddaughter, I saw behind her, like putting her hands up saying, yes, yes, she can actually hear, because
Right.
she wanted just to know that her grandma, when she called her, could understand why she was calling her, and that
Right.
everything was good and that she was safe. And this is the first time I actually got a hug from
That's
the person,
fantastic.
because she was just so ecstatic that her grandmother could hear and be safe and have it on the phone. So those sort of moments mean so much to me, because what I do is very rewarding.
Right.
I'm going out and helping people, and I don't have to ask for a dime.
And I'm thinking, as you just pointed, I'm thinking that the majority of the time, I don't know if it's true or not, but I would think that it's somebody on the other end that recognizes it first. Because if I'm talking and I'm hearing, I'm like, I may not necessarily recognize that I'm not hearing as
Yeah.
quickly as somebody else might on the other end, because they're repeating themselves, they're having to talk louder, they're doing things on their end
Yep.
because I'm not responsive.
Correct.
So I can definitely see how it might be the person on the other side that might actually recognize, hey, there's a need here. Maybe we should try to see if we can have some, just like going to the doctor, right? Hey, like I'll be limping around for a while. My wife's
Yep.
hey, look, maybe you need to go to the doctor for that. I'm like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm good.
It's like,
But that's-
"Yeah, but you can't walk anymore. Oh,
That's
okay.
a great point you make. I'm going to say probably 80% of the customers I work with are people that their family have come to me saying
Right.
this person needs help.
Right.
It's a small percentage of the population that's going to come up to say, I need this. It's
Yeah.
always the
Yeah, we don't-
family, the friends, the friends. Friends come up to me and they'll bring
Right.
up their friend and say, she can't hear a thing.
Right.
And like throw her right in front of me and say, talk
yeah.
to this man.
And if you're 90 years old, been hearing your whole life, it's kind of like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with this. Well, that's fantastic. All right, you've been listening to Master Your Finances. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Master Your Finances. I am Kurtis Baker, certified financial planner professional. I am here with BJ Thomas of ClearCaptions, and we've been talking about kind of a cool program that I hadn't known about until BJ told me about it, and it helps us, as especially older people or people with hearing loss of any age.
Correct.
Right? You had somebody, I think 14 years old.
Yep.
And so it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your ability to pay, because it's already paid for, because we're all paying for it as a group.
Yep.
Anybody who uses a phone is helping to pay for this. So definitely take advantage of it. And you talked a little bit about how a lot of times it's a family member or friend referring in. They're noticing that, hey, my loved one or my friend is not hearing me anymore. Maybe
Correct.
they need some help. And here's this program that can help them out. And one of the ways you spread the word, so to speak, is you literally go out into the public and you give some workshops, because people just aren't aware.
No, and
Right.
I think that's probably the most important part of my job that I do is
Right.
providing workshops and educational seminars and presentations. I also attend a lot of health fairs, in the area with senior centers. And it's just going out and educating people, because just recently I received 2 phone calls from veterans that I met last summer in June of last year at a retirement appreciation fair they had at McGuire. And they said to me, both of them said, listen, I held onto your card. And he goes, I've had it. And I've been meaning to call you, but now is the time.
Right.
And that was almost 8 months ago.
Right.
So that's someone that I met 8 months ago, held onto my card, and is now ready. And I'm going out to see them next week to hook up. So it's just getting the education out there. So whether they need it now or they need it 2 years from now,
Right.
just building awareness.
Correct.
That awareness of this program is out there. And then if it's not for them, but they know of somebody that they can use, they can help someone.
Right.
And even if they know someone in California, Florida, wherever it may be, I have someone that I can refer to their family or friends in that area that can help them and assist them just as I would.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go out to do my seminars, they're pretty brief. They're 10 to 15 minutes at the most because it's an easy program.
Right.
I try to keep it light and I try to keep it funny and just I tell the stories that I tell here so people can relate to it.
Right.
But when I go out, I'll host a breakfast. I'll do a lunch and learn.
Mm-hmm.
If they just want me to come in and bring some treats and candy and beverages, I'll do that. I want to be able to do everything I can to help and keep it entertained, because the worst thing I can do at a seminar is just watch people's eyes glaze over. It's the last thing I want to do. So I try to keep it brief, concise, precise, so they have a great understanding. And there's nothing better than after I'm done with a presentation.
Right.
And even if they don't need the phone at the time, but they come up to me and say, that was the best presentation we've seen. Thank you. To me, that means everything. I love presenting. Years ago, I used to be on stage. I used to do stand-up comedy. So anything I can do to be on stage and make people laugh and get a couple of giggles, but get information out there, to me, it's like my own little fun up there. And I get to be able to educate and help. So, but yeah, so communities, a lot of adult 55 plus communities
Right.
will have activities directors that I work with and will have me come in and present. And there's clubs, men's clubs, women's clubs, veterans clubs. I've presented to a flower club in a community. Anyone that needs speakers to come in,
Right.
I'll go in. A lot of veterans organizations, VFWs, American Legions, DAVs. I'll go out and I'll present to their local chapters or the state chapters in New Jersey, just to, again, educate the veterans. A lot of veterans, unfortunately, have hearing loss just who have served in wars.
And what about professionals that deal with people who have hearing loss? What about the doctors and things like that? Do you ever talk to any of them about this?
Yes.
Are they aware? I mean, if I'm coming in to get a hearing aid, I mean, this might be, if it's a free option,
Correct.
are they kind of aware of this at any
Yes,
level?
so they are aware. So I do a lot of networking, not only with professionals in
Right.
hearing loss, but professionals such as yourself, where we met at that networking event.
Right.
I think the best thing I can do, along with providing a caption phone, is networking with other professionals that are working in the senior population.
Right.
And the one commonality that I'm finding is aging in place. If
Yeah,
keeping
that's
someone
very popular.
and not having to go to assisted living at the time, or not having to go to a nursing home, but they can stay in their home and be safe. And one of the great things about these networking groups that I belong to is being able to, 90% of the time when I hook up a phone, when I'm done, I'm giving this person 2 or 3 other pieces of information
Right.
of how to help them, how to find out about programs that they're not aware of, how to be able to take advantage of other services, professionals that can help them above and beyond what I do.
Okay.
Because I'm in a home usually no more than an hour.
Right.
But within that hour, I pretty much get to know this person, because we're just talking and BSing and getting to learn. And I'll just ask basic questions because I want to learn about them. And if I pick up on something that I know they can need help,
Right.
I will say, listen, I know this person that can help with this. I know this person that can help with this. So it's above and beyond just the phone.
Right.
The phone's a great thing so they can hear, but being able to assist and be able to help, it means so much to me, because I have a 100-year-old friend that I hooked up a year and a half ago. Her godson in Florida found me somehow, some way, found my name,
Right.
called me out of the blue and said, you need to help my godmother. She lives in Brick, New Jersey. And I literally live 10 minutes away. I live 10 minutes away from her. And she goes, you're not going to believe it. She's 99 at the time. Go visit her, please. She needs this phone. I walk in. She's 99. She looks incredible, sharp as a tack.
Right.
But she had no one else really too much around that was helping. She had some friends that were helping out with her. I hooked her up about a year and a half ago. To this very day, I talk to her or see her at least once or twice a week.
Wow.
And I go in, check in, help with her. She always has a glass of milk and an oatmeal cookie ready for me.
Oh, that's why you're gone.
Yeah, that's exactly. She knows how to get me back. But she, so I've made connections with these people, and there's a couple of other people beside her that I go in and check in on because there's no one else around.
Wow.
Helping out.
Well, it's definitely above and beyond. Well, now, what about you bring up another point? Is that like once you install the phone, what if like 6 months later there's like some issue with it doesn't work or something's going on? That happens sometimes.
They
right?
call me.
Oh,
So
is that what happens?
yep.
Okay.
So
okay.
and that's the one thing I love. There's always someone to call. We have a customer support department that's open 7 days a week.
Okay.
And you have me. I'm dedicated to this area. So I just don't hook up a phone and be done and leave. I'm the person they call. I program my cell phone number in their contacts.
Okay.
So this way I always say, if you need me, or if you have any questions, call me directly. And it's usually easier to call me first because I know how I hooked up the phone.
Right.
I can remember where we did it, how we did it. So I'm able to diagnose something quicker. And if I can't, I will go back out to the home to take a look and see what needs to be done or fixed. So I'm the direct contact.
That's great. So it's not only is it the phone provided, it's maintained.
It's maintained, it's
So
serviced.
that's kind of a key thing too.
Yep. And one thing I forgot to mention, we focus on the home phone, but we also provide an app for the iPhone.
Right.
So there is some seniors that no longer have a home phone and they only have a cell phone. Right now we have an app that was developed for the iPhone that will caption what the other person is saying. Also free, 100% no cost. They are developing apps for the other devices such as the Android.
Okay.
But for someone that just has an iPhone and is having hearing loss, I'll go out to their home, I'll install the app on their phone, and I'll show them how to use that. And that's also 100% no cost.
Okay.
So for people with cell phones, with iPhones specifically, we can help them also.
And amazing. So this is primarily for home phones, right? So like a business would get their own system, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
I'm
this
a business.
This is a residential.
Just for consumers that might need some help there. So maybe you can give us a little bit of information if I needed like the app, or how would I, like if I needed a seminar, how would I get that set up if I know somebody might need something like this?
So to learn more about ClearCaptions, you can visit clearcaptions.com. If you're interested in the area of maybe learning more about the phone or getting an educational seminar, you can reach me directly at 732-288-4889. That's my local contact. I live in Monmouth County, so 80% of my time I'm driving up and down Route 195. Right. That's between Ocean, Monmouth, and Mercer, and then everything down. So anywhere in those areas, feel free to reach out to me. And if you know of somebody in a different area in the state or country, you can reach out to me, and I can point you in the right direction of how to get help out there.
Wow. It's an amazing program. And, of course, we're going to have it in the transcription that we have on the show, which is at the masteryourfinances.us. So they can listen to it again there if you need to, and we can find you if they need to. They happen to forget about it, but we also do a transcription so they can see it in that as well. They can read it right off. So,
that's great.
So I really appreciate you coming in. This is fantastic. Anything else we should know before we head out? You did a great job.
No, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. And, just continuing to educate people about this program is the most important thing.
Excellent. Thank you. You've been listening to Master Your Finances, and you can reach us by going to masteryourfinances.us. And remember that together